There are sensor arrays on each fingertip that provide information about contact. Am I touching a surface? What's the angle that I'm touching? What's the pressure that I'm applying to a surface? What's the temperature of that surface?
Here's where I can use a hand.
Back in November 2009, we reported on the Defense Advanced Research Agency's revolution in prosthetics in life and limb. Fred Downs of the Veterans Administration was one of the first to field test a remarkable prosthetic under development, the DECA arm. Prosthetic arms hadn't really changed much since the Civil War. Fred is a Vietnam vet.
In my war, of the major amputations coming back, about 4% of them were upper extremity. That's all. Because the same blast that blew off your arm caused so much torsal damage it killed you. In this war, 23 to 24% of the amputations coming back are upper extremity because the body armor, the first aid on the battlefield, the quick evacuation, that they're surviving. And so there's a lot of attention to these upper extremities. Why don't we have a better product?
We envision a prosthetic arm that will be controlled the same way you and I control our arms, with our thought, our intent.
In fact, the wrist rotates more than yours can. He can go from one extreme more than I can. All right, now we'll spin back.
The DECA arm is one version of that better prosthetic, created in 2 years. The Applied Physics Laboratory at Johns Hopkins University has been working on another, called the Modular Prosthetic Limb, or MPL, for 4 years.
It has a battery pack which is self-contained in this forearm, so that depending on how much you use your arm during the day, you should be able to get by with a single battery charge.
In our earlier program, a first generation of the MPL had been demonstrated publicly. One contributor to the revolution in prosthetics says the whole project has evolved into a kind of well-oiled machine.
This is the best arm to date that they have, but this is going to be the best arm.
The well-oiled machine brings Jesse Sullivan and Claudia Mitchell to the Applied Physics Laboratory at Johns Hopkins University. They're testing the APL arm, an arm even more sophisticated than DECA's.
The DECA arm right now, in its current iteration, has about 13 degrees of freedom, which is tremendous. But the APL arm has 22. So you can see that there is a mechanical difference between the two.
Okay, Jesse, I'm ready to arm wrestle.
Those extra degrees of freedom allow for fingers that can move individually. So an amputee one day could actually play a piano or type on a computer keyboard.
Degree of freedom is the ability to do a manipulation. So very simply,
degrees of freedom is one of the key concepts in prosthetics.
And so our natural limb has over 20 degrees of freedom. And so I can operate my fingers individually, I can operate them together, I can move my thumb in a variety of different ways. All those are degrees of freedom. And the challenge is to be able to operate a system like that in a very natural way. So I don't want to think about, I have to move this finger, or I have to move that finger. If I want to pick up a cup of coffee, I don't want to think about all the individual moves. I just want to pick up a cup of coffee.
Now Jesse and Claudia will be getting to test the next generation of the MPL, which allows much more articulation in the fingers. A whole lot of technological expertise went into this device.
Well, just about every engineering and scientific discipline went into it. So mechanical, electrical engineering, software engineering, material science, neurology, biomedical engineering, just about any kind of discipline you can find at a university like Johns Hopkins was involved in creating that system.
The Applied Physics Lab team is even working on a natural-looking covering for the MPL.
So these have details of fingernails, the various textures of the skin. We can add synthetic hair to it so it has a very natural look. We can color it to match the wearer's complexion.
Mike McLaughlin thinks the MPL could begin production in 2010. The DECA arm is expected to become generally available first.
I was just curious of the weight of the arm.
Staff Sergeant Michael Kocher lost his arm to an RPG in Iraq. He attended Fred Downs' demonstration at Walter Reed and sees how the DECA arm could change his life.
Like, the whole point of prosthetics is to try and get us back to the everyday way of life that we're at. before the injury, like get as close as we can to having an actual arm. And that is the closest arm I've seen so far to doing that.
Mike McLaughlin and his team hope the MPL will go even further.
We have a number of veterans that really need this technology, and to have the opportunity to work in a program that is addressing such a need is really a wonderful thing.
This is one of the guys that was intercepted by the United States Coast Guard.
We've been tasked today to go on a border security patrol on the west side, meaning west side of Puerto Rico, so we'll be covering this area here, otherwise known as the Mona Passage. So we're going to head to the north to 19 latitude. We're going to cover this area all the way to the Bay of Samaná, Dominican Republic. And then from there, we're going to come down here and do what I call a ladder pattern here, covering the entire Mona Passage.
Customs and Border Protection agent Brett Frazier and his crew are part of a multi-agency effort that's had big impact. Today, they're heading out on a routine patrol looking for potential drug runners and for YOLOs, small handmade boats that can carry illegal migrants trying to sneak into Puerto Rico from the nearby Dominican Republic.
If we spot the Yola, we report it back to our home base, and then they start coordinating the cutter out there, the Coast Guard cutter, to intercept this Yola.
The Dash 8 patrol plane is loaded with sophisticated monitoring technology displayed on high-resolution screens.
We have the camera here in the upper corner, upper right corner, and we have the radar display on the upper left corner. As a background, we have the map of the area that we are operating.
The Air Patrol can see and identify vessels at a considerable distance.
With the camera, depending how clear the day is, 20 miles, 30 miles.
Let's say this yacht that he's looking at right there is my Yola. He's going to tell me about it, and I'm going to make a steer towards that target. So we can count, if there's pretty much, anywhere from 8 to 10, 12 people on board, we know that's something of interest.
Sometimes the Yolas carry many more. In October of 2008, the Coast Guard cutter Key Largo was on patrol in the Mona.
When we got on scene, the quote-unquote was, "This is the largest Yola we've ever seen," by the aircraft pilot. Our initial estimates when we got alongside were somewhere in the neighborhood of 90 to 100 migrants. As we started taking off the migrants, groups in 5 or 6 at a time, over the course of 3 to 4 hours, the head count of that migrant Yola turned out to be 157.
Inside the Yola, there was a lot of spoiled food, garbage, diapers, feces, urine, vomit, all kinds of, it was nasty.
It turned out the migrants had been at sea for 6 days.
Normally these vessels are very unseaworthy. We take them off of that vessel and then basically get them on board, get them situated, get them in life jackets, and then at that point we start interviewing and biometric fingerprinting each migrant.